here we go. And by the way, just in case any of you didn't know this, I'm going to start publishing the location, but Realvolve does have a YouTube channel, and one of our playlists is going to be office hours playlist. And so far I've got 2 videos in there, but anytime, if you're just like, if you're having trouble sleeping, there's a good 2 hours of content right there that you can access. And so also,
are you saying it'll put you to sleep?
I am definitely saying that. And today is we're just going to kind of have a discussion that we can go as deep as we need to, but what I want to talk about today, because we have a lot of new users that don't necessarily show up for office hours themselves, but I go back and I look at our engagement numbers, and our typical office hours is viewed by about 170 different unique times, and so I'd like for that number to grow, but this is going to be maybe a little bit beginner, but it depends. Maybe we can go a little bit deeper. And the thing that I want to talk about today is workflows and understanding how to plan a workflow from the start, because it's better to have it planned from the start than it is to just sort of, build it ad hoc. Of course, when we go into our workflow section here and we hit our little plus button up here, we can create a new workflow. And the first thing that we have to do whenever we create a new workflow is we have to give it a title. We have to determine if it's a workflow dedicated to contacts or listings or properties or the transaction process. And that would be whether you're on the seller side, the buyer side, or both sides. You can build a workflow that, handles any of those. And so just for fun, let's just go ahead and say that we're going to do a property workflow. And in our description, we always want to, basically say what our workflow is for. This workflow is designed to help you through the pre-MLS/listing process. We can say something simple like that. You have the alternate workflow option here, which is essentially where if I go ahead and close this workflow for whatever reason, if I stop it, I am automatically prompted, oh, is it because you want to start this next workflow? And there's a lot of different options available there. You can have tags where, let's say you've just got gobs of workflows, you can tag a workflow and make it easier to find. And groups, of course, are really vital. We're not going to really talk about groups yet, but I'm just going to click add. Wait, what did I forget to? Oh yeah, I need to give this a title. So we'll just kind of say pre-MLS to active. Whoops, I think I've made this before. And so we're just going to add. And we're going to invite this new person in here. So we've just done that, and then we're just going to hit update. And now we're ready to start building workflows. This is usually where people get stuck. You open this up, and you see this add an activity field here. And you have this field called title and type, assign to, priority, with, group, schedule, remind by, all these different fields. And it's like, well, what do these even mean? How do I begin to plan out a workflow? I always tell people, and you can do something more complex than what I'm about to show you. You don't have to do it as simple as what I do. But if I were to ask someone to, or if someone were to hire me to build a workflow for them, I would ask them, or I would pick their brain and I would fill it out as we go. I would ask them to fill out a sheet similar to this. And this sheet here, it actually has fields that correspond with our workflow builder. So for example, and notice how I say this, what do you want to do? How will you do it? When will you do it? Who will do it? Checklist. And then with, or who receives the message. In most cases, that's what a with is. It's establishing who's going to get whatever it is you're doing, who's going to receive it. And you'll notice here it says title, type, schedule. Well, if we go back to our workflow little guy here, look, title, type, schedule. The with field is right here. The checklist field is down here. So that spreadsheet doesn't cover all of the fields. And as a side note, workflows are so complex, or they can be. You may often hear people, if you're on my side of things, go, well, can we just import our workflows from a spreadsheet? Mark, why is that so hard?
Well, technically, a spreadsheet itself only has certain elements of it. Um, and the drop downs, I mean, if you look at each cell in a spreadsheet, it may or may not have the right values in it. There is some logistics in making sure that it's correct. And just doing it from a spreadsheet is kind of prone to errors versus putting it in the way it needs to be. By putting it onto the spreadsheet, at least it organizes your mind, your brain. We've got one that's just a little bit different. If you go into the start section of our help, the quick start pieces, but it's really just the idea of gathering the thoughts, putting them onto paper so that then you can put them properly into the fields as you go along
Absolutely.
in building them.
And this particular spreadsheet, it's very, very simple. It could have a little bit more complexity to it, but I typically, and by the way, what you all should also understand about Realvolve and about our premium services is that we have a few different abilities or functions that we can perform. You've got guys like me out there who can just kind of show you how to get it done, whatever it is you're looking at. You've also got people in Realvolve, though, who have used it in a transaction coordination or office manager setting, or as a successful agent as well. And they're not just going to show you how to get it done. They're actually going to have good advice on how you should get it done. And, they're thinking in, sort of 4D chess. So whereas I might on occasion design something and it works right now, we have people at Realvolve, especially in our navigator department, who have played it out over time. And, they've kind of seen the long view of things. And so, I would usually, you're not going to find many people. Well, we've actually got one of those people in the call with us, Mark Stepp. But you're not going to find a lot of people who've probably built more workflows than me, except, we happen to have the guy who, created the whole thing right here with us. But the difference between someone like me and our navigator team is they've really used it in real life. And so anytime you're looking for more of a premium service experience, I would always recommend it. Having said all that, though, we're just kind of keeping it simple right now because it's more the idea that I want everybody to understand today. And I know that we've kind of talked about these things before, but we discussed how the workflow that we're messing with is supposed to be like a pre-MLS to active on the MLS workflow. And so it just kind of stands to reason to plan something out like that. It really just looks something like what we have right here. So, the first question is going to be, what do you want to do? And I'm going to put this in the plainest language possible. Make sure property in Realvolve updated, right? How will I do it? Okay. What does this field correspond to? Well, let me show you all really quick here. That's the type field. And, it's not an anniversary. It's not a follow-up. It's not a text. It's a to-do for me. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to say that this is going to be a to-do. When am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to do it listing agreement signed day. Who will do it? Listing agent. Is there going to be a checklist? Yes, but I'm not going to put it there. I could if I wanted to. Now, is there going to be a message involved in this? Maybe. Think it through. Maybe instead of the listing agent doing it, I want my listing coordinator to do it. So in this particular case, who will do it will become my listing coordinator. And then what would the message be for? Well, maybe I just want to design this workflow, so like maybe Nathan, you're in your sort of command center in the office, you get the listing agreement signed, you go back to your office, your listing coordinator, sometimes they're in, sometimes they're out, or maybe they work remotely because of COVID. Well, what you can do is you can just go ahead and start the workflow. But what you could do is you could have this, have a text message involved. So when you start that workflow, it automatically alerts your listing coordinator, hey, do me a favor, check Realvolve. We've got this new listing. I've already started filling in some of it. Please fill in the rest of the specifics for me. Or start MLS entry into the MLS, stuff like that. Or, maybe you're using idxbroker.com or something, make sure and pull the MLS information in, or, whatever the case may be. And so in that particular case here, the listing coordinator would be the one to receive the message if you chose to go about it that way. So there's that. Make sure the property is updated in Realvolve. But then you've got a whole bunch of other things like order photos. How would we do that? Well, let's say we're going to order those with a text. When are we going to do it? Well, we're going to do that on listing agreement sign day. Who's going to do that? My listing coordinator is going to do that. No message necessary for that because my listing coordinator knows to do that. How about this? Order staging, if applicable, right? And we'll say that we're going to do that one with an email, just for fun. We're going to do that on listing agreement sign day. My listing coordinator is going to do that. How about this one? Homework to seller. We're going to say that that's going to be an email. And also, if I wanted to, I could do it as a text too. Just like a text saying, hey, Bill and Nancy, please remember to check your email. As I told you right after we got our listing agreement signed, I have an email with your instructions, your homework to prepare your home for, I'm trying to think of like all the myriad of things that you might discuss in there, right? So, or it could just be an auto email and you don't bother doing like a notification, it's really up to you, but you can be as thorough as you want. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to do something like this: email and call. So we're just going to say, oh, well, when will I do it? Okay, so that's going to be the listing agreement sign day. I could do it maybe the next day if I wanted to, right? So like maybe I could say 1 day after listing agreement signed. Agent checklist, again, I can have a checklist there. And then the with field in this case is going to be seller 1 and 2, just like that. So I think you all can you get it. If we were doing contract to close, this would be significantly more, it will just have a lot more moving pieces to it. But the listing process, it's one of the simpler processes, depending on what you're up against and what you're doing. But for the most part, though, what I want to see whenever I'm getting ready, so let's say for whatever reason, well, I think you all know that my wife is a real estate agent. Let's say for some reason, I decide to start consulting for her, one of these days, because she makes me. And let's say I'm probably never going to be an agent, to be honest. Probably not going to be a marketing guy. But I probably could actually do some sort of office management role, right? That's where, I coordinate all the things. So I would actually be the workflow guru guy, right? If I was going to use Realvolve, which actually I most assuredly would, I'd use FirePoint for my lead gen and my website hosting, and I'd use Realvolve for my, pretty much for everything else, including, in my opinion, dealing with Sphere and Past Client. I think Realvolve does that really nicely. That's just my opinion, but I would basically pick every agent's brain apart, and whoever the team leader was or whoever the broker was, I would get every single process like this on paper. I would have a process for what we do while a listing is active and we're receiving offers, right? I would create a seller report workflow. I would have a listing contract to close, a buyer contract to close, and then I would have one that's a hybrid if I'm doing both sides. I would probably have, something on deck for probably open houses, for door knocking, for all sorts of, cases where we might do that. And I would probably have, oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like, Mark, maybe I'm out, maybe I'm being a little too lean and mean here, but I bet you could run a really good team on 8 to 12 workflows, like 8 to 12 solid workflows.
You can run a team on 3 workflows honestly, I mean, you can go as deep as you want or as shallow as you want. The three main ones that I typically push is part of the core strategies that I teach, which conversion, which is your lead gen, operations, which would be your listings and listing management type piece, and your closing piece. And then the R for relationship for core would be your the relationship ones, which would be kind of after close. So you can kind of uh, break those three or four as a beginning piece, and then just start layering the more workflows into it to how you want to give world-class service to your customers. The more you systematize your system, I mean, that's all it is making sure that you have a plan for something, whether it be contacts, properties, or transactions. One of those three is what we deal with. You are giving that customer the experience. The neat thing is you can give the next customer that same experience. It's just a matter of making sure that it's planned out. And then part of the framework that I've been teaching is design, build, run, repeat. You design it, which is what we're doing here. You build it, you put it into Realvolve, you run it, you run the workflow, and then once it completes, you repeat, you do it again. But during that repeat process, you actually go back and look at and think about the things that you did everything go right? If everything went right, then the workflow was good. Were there any kind of hiccups during the process that you ran into that maybe if you would have sent one extra email or commented to the seller one extra piece, that they would have understood something that would have prevented some challenge, or that call, that dreaded call that says, where are we at? I'm freaking out here. Give them the status email one extra time and letting them know. And that's the process of just kind of running your system. And as you continue to run your system, it'll start growing. It'll start making you a more consistent real estate agent through your processes. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. That's good stuff right there. One of the things too that maybe in the future we can talk about is content as well. Don't don't fall into the trip of thinking, or into the trap of thinking that you just need a perfect workflow and everything's going to work out okay. Like, you do need content, and we highly recommend. Well, goes without saying, we really do recommend BombBomb. We think that that's a really powerful platform. But even if you're not going to use something like BombBomb, don't worry about it too much. Just start making your videos and start putting them on. Start putting them on YouTube. You can usually find a way to send people your YouTube videos. You can definitely do it with Realvolve, and you just want to get more engagement out there. You want to have really good, vibrant social media that really represents the core of who you are. I really cannot stress it enough how important just being consistent is, though. Consistent with your content, but also consistent with your processes as well. Because people will start talking, people will start to notice the skill with which that you do things. And that's really important nowadays. I now that Zillow's going to become a brokerage and everything, it's like, well, what are you going to do now? What are we going to do to get our Zillow leads now? Do we even want to support that machine anymore? Who's the middleman between you and the people who want to buy and sell? Figure out a way to get that person out of there.
Hey, Michael, one of the things that if the attendees here and the people that are watching on replay have not yet watched our 3-part series that we did last week, it was a process that Jennifer Myers has put together, talking about automate, delegate, and scale. Those three elements of your business are so important. And you don't necessarily have to buy a bunch of leads. You can and use Zillow and bring those in, but it's really about nurturing your existing customers and building that relationship and building that sense of being the information warehouse for people in your area so that they will become your customer for life. And one of the questions that she asked, which I thought was it was a phenomenal question, was what makes me choose you as a real estate agent? What makes, or think about it in first person tense, what makes me think as a real estate agent that my customers need me? What is it that I provide? What is it that I do that's so unique that will let them choose me over any of the other agents in the area? And that's an important question. And you build that into your workflow. You build that into your automation, because people, that old saying about, people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. That is so true. And you can show that caringness through the workflow and making sure that you're creating the systems that drive your whole process. And then what if you want to go on vacation? Your systems work for you. You can have somebody come in, an assistant, another, part of your team, that all they have to do is follow the checklist. I mean, it's just a process and a repeatable process. So make sure
Yes.
that you think about those.
Mark, where's that 3-part series? I'm going to the Realvolve community right now.
Yeah. So I think that it was listed on some of the entries there. I'm actually putting together a full 1-pager for everybody, and I'll be posting that very soon. That has all 3 videos together, along with some additional content that you guys would probably really like. That's the
great.
Shehata one. Shehata is awesome as well. If
Yeah.
you've not watched Shehata, it's an amazing one as well. Man,
Yeah.
she gives all kinds of content. But
Well,
it's all about workflows and how you service your customers.
How many transactions did she handle last year? 150?
Yeah, I forget what the number was.
No,
but
it was more than that. It was like 250.
It was
was a
200 something.
ridiculous
Yeah,
number.
it's 200 something, and she did it herself. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's because she had her systems in place and able to do a repeatable process, and that's what workflows do for you. And that's I wish I could help people understand. I get occasions where people will say, "Oh, it's just too hard. I don't have the time for it." Guys, it's all about making the time right now to build these systems, and they don't have to be perfect. I like to say it's better done. Done is better than perfect.
Yes.
It just get it done, and you can make it perfect over time. But having the systems in place to do what you do that makes you unique in your neighborhoods that you deal with is what will bring you more business. And yes, you can buy leads. People buy leads all the time. But I'm really of the mind, and a lot of people will disagree, but I'm of the mind that you can spend the same amount of money and get that relationship with those people that will give you business for a lifetime versus just doing one-off on leads. Now, if you're brand new to the area, you've got to get some leads somehow, some way. That's a great way of doing it. But there comes a time when you can kind of purge yourself from those lead gen sites, because you've got enough business coming in from the repeat business and the referrals that make your business easier to run.
Oh yeah. I mean, Mark, I can I think I could fill a pretty big list of people I know who are spending between, 20 and 40 grand a year on Zillow.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, I was talking with an agent that's spending that a month, each month, it was like 25 grand a month on leads. And there was a big area, but you know, that's huge. Just think about what you could do.
yeah, you know, and yeah, I think you know, Jocko Willink, he's a pretty famous Navy SEAL. You know, and I remember one time he was on a podcast and he was talking about a massive humanitarian crisis, and he basically said, you know, a second lieutenant in the Army could come up with a plan, and as long as we did it, it would work. And so the point was that he was making was that, you know, even a bad plan, if faithfully executed, will usually work. And you know, I feel like that with workflows as well. You know, most of you would be better off, even if I didn't know your process, if I just went in and designed a workflow for you for your listing process. You know, you might have to tweak it a little bit here and there, but as long as we faithfully follow those processes, it works. So, you know, let's take a look at this. So we're going to make sure the property is updated in Realvolve. We're going to order photos, order staging, homework to seller. This right here really is as simple as I can make it, how to build a workflow. You get together a spreadsheet like this with all the little data points that you need. And typically, any of you, if you were to send me a spreadsheet like this filled up, let's say you were going to give me your buyer contract to close process. So you're probably going to have about, if we're being realistic, we're probably going to have between you know, 40 and 55 activities on this spreadsheet here. Like when you really think about everything that you do. Now, some of those things are going to be, you know, optional, you know, from time to time. You know, for example, some of you, if any of you are like an agent in Texas, for example, and we're doing buyer contract to close, you know that you only have to order one inspection, and that particular worker can order more inspections, you know, in order to, you know, check on things that they're uncertain of. Whereas if you're in a state like California, I believe there's like 3 inspections that are just mandatory and you've got to order them all, and it's usually all different people, right? You know, little things like that. So, but you would be able to, you know, design that into your workflow. The point being though, workflows can get pretty long, but for the most part though, whether it's a listing workflow or buyer or seller contract to close, you know, you're usually going to be somewhere between 30 and 55 activities. So the question that I would just want to pose to anybody, especially those of you who might be watching as opposed to those who are here live right now, because there's a couple of you whose names I don't recognize, but I think I think I do recognize every name in here. I know that right now I'm in a meeting with pretty seasoned users. The simple fact is though, if you're not a seasoned user, get yourself a sheet like this. And if you want to, go ahead and get in Realvolve. We've got this wonderful little thing in the bottom right corner called help. And if you click on help, you're actually going to, you know, talk to a real human being. We're going to ask you to fill in like, hey, why are you using this? But at the end of the day, you're going to talk to a human being. And at the end of the day, the person who, you know, if we escalate it as far as it can go, he's actually sitting here with us right now. His name is Mark Stepp. And so, you know, one of the things that I just really want to drill into everybody is you can always get a resource. So it's like, you know, oh man, I want to build that. I want to use that spreadsheet that Michael Shawley was telling us about. Reach out to the help.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, can I get you down at the, let's see, where's it at? Down at the bottom of the screen is just that help button. Click on that help, not that one, at the very bottom bar, the black.
Oh, help right there?
Yeah.
That's not going to take me into, because I'm an admin, is it?
I don't know. We'll see. Oh,
no, yeah, perfect.
So over on the right-hand side, it says getting started. Click on getting started. And on this first section here, there is like the 7th, there's a workflow spreadsheet PDF. There's also a Google Sheet version. Click on the Google Sheet version.
Absolutely. Which one is it?
It's just to the right. Just scroll.
Oh, right there, right there.
Yeah. So what this will do is this will force you to make a copy. So click on make a copy of our master workflow sheet, which is similar to what Michael was just showing.
Ooh, this is fancier though. Look at
Yeah,
this.
it's a little bit fancier. The nice thing about this is you can go in and put your activity titles. You've got all the assigned twos as drop downs. You got the with fields there. There is a setup tab down at the bottom, so you can add other choices if it's just something that isn't in the list, because it's some generic stuff. But these are the menu choices that you can put in for the activities. Scroll back up a little bit. It does show you some examples of things that you can put in, but it's really the same thing that he was just showing, a little bit different order, but it's the one that I use for all of my workflow secrets trainings that I do. And what I'm going to do for you guys in the chat area here, I'm also going to include, this is like a $100 package that I put together. I'm going to make this available to you guys. In the chat, you can click on, since you're here today, click on that one pager. There's a realvolve.onepager.app. And what this is pretty much what Michael was just going over. It's basically a 50-minute training and showing you how to create a workflow secrets after close nurture. Workflow secrets is my group of training pieces that I've been putting together for our workflow hackers and making sure that they understand how to build things. And it's a 1, 2, 3 step basically. And there's a whole video that goes along with it. You guys can utilize this and make it your own. So
This is awesome.
yeah.
This is great. And this is actually, I'm really glad that you mentioned this as well, Mark, because this is kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of content as well. It's no secret. I talk about it all the time. My wife is an agent. She uses Realvolve, but she's also going to be using Firepoint. And we've been just kind of talking about how she's going to use Firepoint with her website. And really, it's great that Mark mentioned this. The thing that we are going to establish her as in the community is the person with all the connections. There's actually a piece on your Firepoint website that you can highlight local business logos and owners and things that you want to just get people to notice. We're going to be using that. Well, even though you're not necessarily hosting your website with Realvolve, what you see here, after close workflow, drip or something, you don't even have to use, it doesn't even have to be after close, but using your Realvolve account to connect people to the local area so that you become what I kind of always have considered to be, a pillar of your community. Back in the day, right, that meant probably joining the Knights of Columbus and making sure that you were really, really visible at the community fish fry, or, being part of the Rotary Club, or, or being on the school board or things like that. But nowadays, it seems to me that the community pillars that everybody should recognize should be some of your community service. And I think real estate agents are right up there near the top. And so you can be a local connector. And I think that that's a really important thing. And that should be the basis of a lot of your content. And so,
and we
Mark,
kind of go through that through this after close nurture piece.
yeah,
One thing that I do want you to know about is we're going to be providing a lot of these different one pager pieces for training and knowledge-based pieces. But you can, whenever you open this up, you'll notice down at the bottom, it says save to account. It's that big black box down at the bottom.
oh yeah, right there. Yeah.
Click on save to account. You can put in your own email address. It'll create a one pager basically folder so you can store all of your one pagers in one place. It's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. It's kind of like a Google Drive in a way, but it organizes all your one pagers into one place. So, you can save your content, you can bring it back later and be able to, review it and use it over and over again.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So just to recap really quick here, because, there's, whether you're here live or whether you're watching it later, because we do have a lot of people who watch later, we've just kind of covered the need to plan out a workflow in advance. And I've shown you like a really easy way to do it. But then Mark was able to kind of come, alongside and say, well, I've actually even got an even better way. And we've got this available right here. But then in addition, we've also provided access to the one pager. We've talked a little bit about content that's important, how to use, your workflows, and that's all well and good. I think that's enough learning for now, like set scheduled learning for now. And sometimes we'll go for the full hour where I'm going to teach people something new. But today, I think that really pretty much covers it. So I want to open up the floor for just any questions. We've got Mark here with us for a little bit longer. Does anybody have any questions about, using Realvolve, how things are going, tips, of the trade, all that sort of thing? I just kind of want to open up the floor and, make ourselves available to you. And you can use the chat or you can just unmute yourself. Probably better if you unmute yourself just so that we can really kind of hear your tone and things like that. But yeah, the floor is open. And don't be shy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't be shy. There was a comment there. Is mobile ready for the upgrade? We are still doing some final testing on it. Really wanted to get it out before the 31st, but there are some things that we needed some deeper testing with, but it's almost there. Sorry.
Mhm. Yeah, and just for anybody who doesn't know, what is the upgrade?
So we've added some additional filtering pieces. We've corrected a few challenges that were in there from the calendar. Just several different pieces. We actually had the training, was it last week or week before last, on mobile. If you haven't seen that, go back to that training that Michael and I did and kind of go through that. But if you're asking, you probably were already on that. But we went through, we've added some better filtering, some more screens, just more content in that mobile app.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. So chat's starting to fill up. That's good. Let's check it out here. Oh yeah. So yeah, any other questions from anybody? Like I said, the floor is open and Mark is here with us. And so, anything that you think might have been a difficult question for me, like we'll say like last week, you've kind of got the guy who can probably, answer it pretty well.
They're shy.
Yeah.
Well, guys, one of the things that I want to make sure that our agents know that's using Realvolve is that it makes a difference. You make a difference in what you do to your customers, and those things that you do can be systematized. Does that mean that everything needs to have automation in it? No, not at all. But the things that can be, that should be, that you don't really have interaction for, the emails that get sent out, they don't really know whether you send it or somebody else sends it. Why should you be spending that 5 minutes or 10 minutes to type up the email when you can set it up one time as a template, let it send it out itself, or at least, remind you to send it out and then you hit the button to send it out before it goes out. Those automation pieces are what will make a difference in the long run in your business. And you've got to take the time. It's like, you can hop in a car and you can start driving, really quick, but if you don't stop and get gas, you're not going to go anywhere. And, creating these workflows is like getting the gas in Realvolve. Yeah, it's kind of a nuisance. You have to do it though. And, learning what the power of Realvolve can do for you. There's no other product out there for the real estate agent that does what we do. I can guarantee you that in the workflow range. They have linear step 1, step 2, step 3, but there's so much more availability. And that's kind of why you can't just import from other applications as well. You wouldn't want to, if you've got action plans or from some of the competitors, potentially you could almost make a case for bringing them in the way they are. But why, whenever you've got more power and capability, would you want to do that? It's really kind of rethinking your system, retooling them to a better way. And I might be able to take a 20-step action plan and bring it down to 10 steps because of checklists, because of multiple action capabilities, the branching capabilities, um, how we organize the dates and in checklists, and be able to auto launch things. It makes a big difference. And if you think through, use those spreadsheets like what Michael was showing, or the one that I gave you. Think through your processes on how you want to give that experience to that customer. That goes a long way. And identifying the steps, then putting those in. If you need help putting them in, reach out. We can give you some advice, or guidelines, or links to one pagers and stuff, that should help you through the process.
Yeah, and one of the things that, in the past, in other endeavors in my life, I've worked, in music, and in public speaking. And I know a lot of people that in music and in public speaking who believe that the only way to be sincere is to, just shoot from the hip in the moment. And there is a type of sincerity that comes with that. But the way that I show my sincerity typically is to prepare, and to prepare in advance, but also to prepare sort of for the time whenever I can be, more expressive and improvisational. And the way that that sort of would manifest itself is, let's say, for example, you were to do something like a monthly, not newsletter, but just a monthly letter to, your top people, for example. Well, one of the things that you could do when you have time is that you can write a large chunk of those letters and the theme. So let's say, for example, you were to write something that was like, dear, contact first name, or dear greeting. And then you just have a paragraph that you think of something that you might be wanting to say in the month of August. You can write that in January. But then you leave yourself a little room to write a personal note, and you can do little things like that where you can provide a large chunk of your content, but then a little bit of room for you to just insert something personal so that that person really feels special. Now, is that really fake? I don't think so. I think that that's completely sincere and genuine, and it's a really good combination of both improving in the moment, but also showing your care through your preparation. And
And
so,
at least you've set it up so that it's a reminder to do it. I
yeah,
mean, that goes a long way too, because if you don't have that reminder to do it, it may not get done, and then that ruins the experience for that customer. If you put it into the system, even partially, as a template, and then you type in the rest, that at least goes a long way. It's less scalable, and whenever we talk about scale, um, you know you're having to spend more time doing it, but maybe that's what you want to do, and maybe that's the scale cost that you are willing to endure, and that's fine. It's however you want to do your business. We're not dictating how you do your business. We're giving you the tool to do the business the way you want to do it. And with that, I mean, there's some customization capabilities that you have to deal with. And it's not difficult. It's more of just a train of thought that you've got to realize. I need to set up systems, and I need to take the time now to learn it. And for some people, learning it is the hard part. For other people, it's doing. And some people just get both of those automatically. It's just however we're built, how we're put together. But dang, take time now, especially now. We're in that season of time where kids are in school. We're selling less houses at this point, potentially. Some people are saying, "Oh, I'm busy as ever right now," and that's awesome. But now is typically in the timelines of real estate. Now is the time when a lot of people spend the time to start working on their systems and tweaking them and making them what they want to be. But it really comes down to that design. Whenever we talk about design, build, run, repeat, design it in your head. How do I want to wow my customer? How do I want to give them that world-class service that I would want if I was the customer? What is it that I can, and what's really cool is that if you've spent any time at all in real estate, a lot of the people have the same questions. Anticipate those questions and build those into your workflow so that whenever you know about the time that they're going to start asking those questions, you've already pre-answered them. Hey, I know that you might be thinking about this. I wanted to let you know, blah, whatever it is. And it's like, oh, he was reading my mind, or she was reading my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about that. Wow, that's cool. I like this person. That's the kind of world-class service I'm talking about, so that you, as the agent, are the expert, and you're preempting any of the known questions. And if you don't have that in there and you start seeing those patterns of questions, maybe that's like the light that goes off in your head. It's like, on week 2, I do get a lot of questions about these things. Why don't I make a little Q&A page that I send out?
Mm-hmm.
Bam, one extra change. That's the repeat part. You and redesign. It's not redesigning the whole thing. You're just inserting one extra piece into the design of this.
That's such a good point. I guess it was a couple of years ago, I worked with an agent who had been working for 13 years. So I guess that agent's probably on 15 years now. And we designed a special workflow for them. This was back in the day when I was doing fast starts and I was like one of the only people doing them. Now we got like a whole team that does them. But this guy said, hey, listen, I've got a really saturated market. I'm fairly well known, but I've just learned a lot. And what we ended up doing was anybody that he spoke to who was in the process of selling their home, he just came up with a short little 4-week newsletter that just each week gave people just a list of lessons that he had learned over his 13 years experience in that specific market. And he would say at the end of those messages, if you've already got another agent, don't change agents just to be with me. Go ahead and stick with the agent you've got, but learn from these. And if anything ever changes, I'm happy to work with you again, but I'm not trying to take you from somebody. I just want to ensure that our local market, he would always say, our local market is as robust as possible. And
building
so
identity.
That's right. He had a sense of like community value. And, his whole heart and soul of it was he said, Michael, I'm doing great on money. I could always do better, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. I just want to make sure that I keep my name out there. So even if I'm losing someone this time around, they know that I'm looking out for them. And I'll tell you, like, going through the process of helping him do that was really great. And he really understood how to combine his experience and his specific knowledge with something that was a little bit more automated that he didn't have to worry about. All he had to do is enter the person into Realvolve, start them on the workflow, and maybe that gets him business later on through a referral, or maybe it doesn't work out with the agent that they've got, or maybe 10 years down the road they remember that. Who knows? It's just all stuff to think about. So
having that workflow in place goes a long way. It's like that Abraham Lincoln quote, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. This is sharpen the axe. This is
really
getting it sharp so that I can cut it down in less time. I can do my processes in less time, and freeing up that time so you can spend more time building those relationships with your customers the way you want. Or maybe it's just a matter of you want to do the same amount of business that you did last year, but you want to do it in less time. You want to spend more family time. That's what it's about too. you don't have to be busier. You can do it in less time. Some people want to scale and grow their business, but whenever you talk about that, it can be one of two ways. You can scale to be bigger, or you can scale your business so that you're doing the same amount of business but in less time.
Yeah, that's a good point. So does anybody else have any questions? Maybe while Mark and I were talking, maybe you thought of something and you would like to go ahead and get that question in. I'm looking at the chat, but you can also unmute yourself if you have anything that you want to ask. Obviously, we're going to do this again next week, and we're going to upload the video for other people to watch on YouTube and on Facebook. Those are going to be great locations for you to find things that we've done. And we're working on getting both of those areas a little bit more organized too. But for differing reasons, I just really feel like Realvolve as a company has just gotten a lot of, we've got a lot of excited people, and we're really just with renewed minds, really trying to do everything we can to help you guys get the value out of the product. We want you to use it. And we want you to profit from it. And so, well, listen, if we don't have any other questions, first of all, I want to thank Mark for joining us today. And listen, that one pager, that is cool. I love it. And so
we'll be having a lot more of those. I'm busy right now building a bunch of additional content for our users. Some things we're building some membership site items so that you can go through some additional training more as a member item. Some of the things we may actually include in some additional benefits. Some of them will be additional courses and things that are a little bit deeper understanding, and we may actually charge for those. But this one I wanted to make sure that at least for our attendees that we made it available to you. So
that's great. Well, listen, guys and gals, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Come back next week and come with questions if you've got any. We look forward to answering them and helping you any way that we can. Really appreciate you all coming in.
Bye, everyone.